Well, hey, welcome to another episode of the Sweeter After Difficulty podcast. I am Randy Highsmith, and as always, I am so happy to have you here. We're going to have an awesome conversation today. So we're just going to jump right in. You know him, you love him. We've got today with us our regular guest, Jordan Lopez and Chris Anderson. How you doing, fellas?
Doing good.
Good to see you guys as always. Great to have Jordan back in the third chair today. Hope you all enjoyed having Ian as a guest last week. Super fun guy. But we are so happy to have our quote master general himself back. So we are going to kick it straight over to him to get this episode started. Super fun topic today. Jordan, what do you got for us?
Sure. Before I start, I have an eye injury, so if you see me blinking or winking my left eye a lot, I'm not
Yeah, we
hitting on
should say
Randy.
that
He's like,
Jordan he
Hey,
texted me this morning and he was like, yeah, so on Wednesday, I had a really horrific thing happen to my eye, and just today, I've got this huge spot in it and I can't see anything.
yeah,
We're like, oh, okay, that sounds right.
yeah,
I'm gonna randomly throw in like, "Hey, Jordan, blink twice if you think I should be promoted."
yeah,
He can't help it.
yeah. So,
Well,
but
I'm
yeah,
glad your eye's okay. I'm glad you
yeah,
didn't lose it, and way to be here and way to push the
yeah, so,
Now that we know that you're safe, we will come for you.
yeah. Now you can start. Now the mocking starts. There's a patch. Okay.
Yes.
So the quote is by an author named Borges. It is: "Time is a substance one is made of. Time is a river which sweeps one along, but one is also the river. Time is a tiger which destroys one, but one is also the tiger. It is a fire which consumes, but one is also the fire."
Yeah. Um, I love the wordiness of it, like
Yeah.
the language of it is really beautiful, and I think it adds a certain something to the quote. So, but I also realized that it's kind of a mouthful. It's a little chunky, this one.
Yeah.
It has some deep ideas that we're gonna have really a fun time diving into. But I'm gonna
Mhm.
have to read it one more time, and just so that we can capture the elements, and everybody can kind of follow along with us as we get started.
Time is the substance one is made of. Time is a river which sweeps one along, but one is also the river. Time is a tiger which destroys one, but one is also the tiger. It is a fire which consumes, but one is also the fire.
Yeah. So, we're gonna just do what we always do here and start
Mhm.
ripping this thing apart. Um, uh, and there are a couple of examples it gives, right? It gives a river, it gives a tiger, it gives a fire. So we can talk about those elements, but I want to start with this first, which what I am taking, and you can tell me what you think about it. But I'm taking this as sort of the key that explains the rest of the quote, right?
Mhm.
So the first sentence, time is the substance that we're made of, right?
Mhm.
Do you agree initially with that concept? And maybe it's not even time for that question yet. Maybe first we should start talking about time itself, right? The construct, the idea, what time is. Um, Anything that initially pops out in your mind from that first sentence?
Mhm. I like the idea of it, like, time's a substance one is made of. Like, what you are is the time you spend, kind of a thing, and what you to invest your time in and what you think about and what your kind of captures your thoughts and captures your actions and things like that. That's all really the time you have is kind of what you really invest in and what you don't invest in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such an interesting idea, right? Like such an interesting way to look at
Mhm.
I'm
life.
I'm I'm struggling with this one. Not that I disagree with the meaning, but like,
Yeah.
here's my issue. He's giving so many metaphors, like
Yeah.
shotgun style, like back to back to back, and it feels like, are you just trying to sound poetic just to be poetic? Because you could
Yeah.
say what you want to say so much more simply. And I think I agree with the point, but like, how much is time being a river and a tiger and a fire
Yeah.
deepening the metaphor for the
Yeah.
fact that we are, yes, time happens to us and we're carried along, yet also it's the thing that comprises our substance. Like, I
I
Yeah.
think that's an interesting point, and I have what I think is a is at least an explanation
okay.
for me of why those specific examples were chosen.
Mhm.
But before we get too deep into that, uh, the concept of time, right? The construct of time, it's an interesting thing. And we mark it in a lot of different ways, right? But it also has this quality of sometimes seeming to go by faster, sometimes seeming to slow down, sometimes seeming to stop completely, depending on situationally. How do you think that our relationship to time, and how we regard it makes it become the substance of what we are? Like if you didn't pay attention to it, would it still be as impacting on the substance of who we are?
You go, Chris.
I think for me, I don't think it is as mystical. And I think kind of like based on some of our conversations, I think where I would land is that like time isn't for me like necessarily a river or something that, is sweeping me along. It's like it's like a ruck. It's a weight that I'm carrying, and how I carry that weight is then what creates like the adaptation from carrying that weight is what creates my character or my personality or informs the decisions that I make. So in a way, I get like the latter half of what he's saying in that construct about time, in the sense of like I am that thing.
Mhm.
Um, I guess in my mind, the way that I interact with it is like it's a load. It's a system load.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really a fascinating perspective, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it applies to the rest of the conversation. Honestly, I'm kind of processing it right now. Um, so normally we spend more time on something, but I do want to talk about the symbols, because I
Yeah.
think that probably it's relevant, like it'll help the conversation move. So when I heard these examples, actually, Jordan posted this quote a couple of days ago on Instagram, and when I first saw it, I started kind of chewing on it a little bit. Uh, so I think that the symbols were chosen for this reason. If I think of a river is a really specific body of water that does a really
Mhm.
specific thing, right? It flows in a controlled pattern. And under normal circumstances, it will continue to move in that exact direction, in that same trajectory, with that same amount of force, you know, give or take a little bit, forever, unless there are outside factors, right?
Mhm.
I think that the river analogy is used to indicate that under the normal circumstances, time is going to pass and flow the
Mhm.
way it's going to pass and flow
Yeah. Consistent.
Yeah.
regardless of
Yep.
years,
Yeah.
right? Then you've got the tiger, and I think the tiger represents how we attack time, right?
Mhm.
How we stalk time, how we prey on time, how we view it as um something to either be ignored or something to be consumed, right? It's the tiger is intentional. And it is so I think that's the symbol of that, right? I think it represents our intentions with time.
Mm.
And then with fire, I think of how it burns and how it in its natural form, fire will run and consume and eventually destroy anything it wants wherever it wants based off of any number of factors. Ultimately, the end of our time will be the flame has gone out or the flame has consumed
Mhm.
Mm.
us as a consumable, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's why those specific symbols were chosen. But now that's just my opinion, right?
Mhm.
But based off of that sort of interpretation, does that change anything about how you feel like about the concept in general?
I don't. I think it's also like I like the idea of like the flowing river, and it makes sense, right? It's consistency, river within its bounds, river within its banks, kind of flowing the same thing the same way. Like the tiger, I see more of as like time is a stock is stalks you when you don't realize it, kind of a thing. Like your time is finite, and you only have so much time, and you decisions you make give you more time or give you less time, right? Your job takes time away from your family, or your hobbies take time away, but then better you. And then the fire part's like kind of the all consuming aspect of it. Like time is everything. It's all you have really. And people base their lives upon how much free time they have and what their job allows them to have for time, and what they can buy with the money that they earn is time, really. And the older you get, the more you start realizing like all I have is time. And all I can do is make decisions on how I use that time.
Which is really fascinating because Chris and I have been having conversations lately
Hmm.
about how ultimately when you create something that is convenient or whatever, like ultimately what you're doing is you're commoditizing time, right?
Yes.
For people. But I feel what you were saying about your descriptions just now, but how does that factor into the second part of each one of those
Yeah. And that's
analogies,
you. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That you are the river, right? That you are
Yeah.
the fire.
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like a thought popped into my head as Randy, like you were talking about the symbology of it, and then Jordan talking about your opinion on the time is a
Yeah.
tiger piece. In that context, I go, oh, well, what it then means is maybe that time is all of those three symbols, and you are also those three symbols, and they're in conflict with one another.
Mm,
Like in the sense that like as much as time is a river that will roll perpetually, you
Yeah.
want to shape it to your own means. You want to shape it to your own ends. You may want to change the flow or the direction, and so you will attempt to do that. Time is stalking you just as much as you're stalking time, right? You're trying to maximize every single day and hour to do the things that you want to do. And time is a fire, but you also burn as well because you want to
Hmm.
be the fuel that keeps it going as long as possible. So maybe it's that those symbols are in opposition to one another.
or
Yeah.
what about this idea? Because that's such a great way of looking at it, and it sparked another, like all good thoughts do, it sparked another one for me. What if he put them in that order because they represent an actual representation of how life goes, right? So, like, you're born, your time is set on a path, right?
Hmm.
It's going to flow for as long as it does, the way it's going to go. And then at some point, you start playing a cat and mouse game with time, right?
Hmm.
That tiger, you're stalking, it's stalking you. And then eventually, time is the fire in which we burn, right? Like we eventually that we run out, right?
Hmm.
We burn up, we end, right? Um, does that feel like it's plausible as a way
Yeah.
that he laid it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's almost all the above. Like it's such a detailed, like broad quote that it's
yeah,
not just like a one thing. It's like it could be a bunch of things. It could be all things.
I think
yeah.
that was like what initially pissed me off about it. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, just say what you want to say. I get it.
Yeah.
You're such a millennial, Chris.
I
Yeah.
know. I know.
Make it make sense.
Right.
Back
It was
in my day, we enjoy a little extra banter, like we
right.
Yeah.
It was either that or this guy invented Power Rangers before everybody else did who thought about
Yeah.
it.
somebody totally ripped off his idea.
Right.
That's funny. Well, okay, so if it's all of the above, which I'm totally open to that idea too. Is time something, do you think that there are let me think of how I want to ask this question, because time for some people seems to be the only important thing, right?
Hmm.
And for other people, they don't think about it at all, right? And I'm even in certain phases of my life, right? So I came up at a time when we would leave the house in the morning with zero tracking or communication
Yeah.
options available unless you could find a payphone somewhere, and they usually weren't where we were, like we were on our bikes miles away from home.
Right.
If we disappeared, our parents or grandparents would never find us. There would be
Yeah.
no, um, and your day would fly by so fast, and you knew you were supposed to be home at dark, right? But you just weren't tracking it. And then all of a sudden it's dark and you're like a half an hour bike ride from home, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there's this panic that sets in because you're not even getting yelled at on the way. You're just imagining how you're going to get yelled at home. Like there's literally no contact. So, but at some point, you start going to school or you get a job or whatever, and then there are these time constraints, right? Like somebody needs you to show up at this time. You need to work until this time, right? You need to go to school. And so this
Mhm.
amount of time is spent on this subject. But not everybody lives that way,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm curious, do you think that that construct is helpful? And just
Mhm.
personally, I know we can't speak, for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
But have you ever thought about that?
In regards to how you spend your time, or regards to
Or
what your
just
time
even
goes to?
thinking about it, like, thinking about what time is or how we fractionalize it or how we break, like, I don't
What
know.
you invested in?
Yeah, like,
Mhm.
or is it always specific? Like, as you said, invested in, and I think that's totally legitimate. Um, but either way, right? It all comes down to how do we spend time because there's a finite amount of it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what's interesting is that time is a finite resource that you have
Yeah.
no idea how much there actually is,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Like, it's like somebody saying, "Here's a briefcase full of money. This is going to sustain you for a certain amount of time in your life, but I'm
Mhm.
not gonna let you look at it or know how much it is. One
Mhm.
day, you will wake up and you will be poor, and
And
there
be
will be
empty.
no
Yeah.
there will be no heads up."
Yeah.
Like, even if you see it coming a little bit, you'll still be taken by surprise.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just talking with my kids as we were getting ready to start the school year. And until you mentioned it just a moment ago, Randy, I'd never thought about it this way. But with the kids now having that structured morning routine back, getting them out the door,
Yeah.
I'm working on with them order of operations. Like, what is the thing that you need to do before you do the next thing? And how do you decide among all of the things that you need to do, what order to set them in order to get where you're needing to go? And I think like we were running late to school one day, and it was like they first tied their shoes, then ate their breakfasts, but didn't pack their backpacks, and then had their shoes on, but they didn't have their school clothes on. And they were just like kind of like going through all of different things. Like,
Frantic.
you're
Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah. You're like, oh God, I gotta go quickly. And so we were talking about like if you're gonna be late, you're gonna be late. The only thing that you can do is minimize it and communicate. So the way to minimize it is like do things in an order that allows you to get out the door faster. So does that
Mhm.
mean you eat a full breakfast like normal, or do you grab a granola bar and a smoothie? Does that mean that you can tie your shoes in the house, or is that something that you can do in the car once we start driving? Your backpack probably needs to be packed in by the door first thing so you can just grab it up and go. So
Mhm.
like, when you
Right.
ask from like a perspective of like, do you think about time? I'm like, not as like a front of brain thing, but yeah, I that's like the structure that I
Mm.
operate in, and now I'm like working on it with my kids, and I didn't realize I was doing it until you just said so. So
Yeah.
Well, and so it's such a great analogy, right? Because it's once you start being responsible for other people and teaching them how to keep track of time.
right.
But that's what I'm curious, and without going too far down the what's the purpose of life, because I think we talked about that a bit. Um, do you think that that's in just a general sense, right? Do you think that it's more helpful and healthy to a human being's natural condition to have such a structured and rigid way of marking time like that? Or do you think that it's to our detriment in some ways?
I think it's so I think for myself, and I kind of fall on the thing along the line with Chris is talking about. Like, so much of my life is I try to find routine, like consistency, like same thing all the time to save that brain power for something else, kind of a thing. Like, I want to try to optimize my time as much as possible, so I'm not thinking about random stuff at 5 a.m. when I wake up. Right? It's just like clothes are already pulled out.
Right.
I'm already going to eat. Or I'm not going to eat.
Yeah.
Or vitamins are already in a cup. Like, just trying to figure out how to maximize my time, knowing that time is truly finite, right? And it's funny because you can make all the plans you want, and then you can get slotted by a semi truck, right? It's just like, well,
Right.
right. But it's
No,
just
and
it's always things. It's
that
like,
is the nature of what we're talking about, right?
yeah,
It's like
exactly.
you can make all the plans you want.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanna present an interesting concept, and I wanna see how you think it applies to this. So I am probably amongst the 3 of us, and in most of the circles that I run in, um, I'm probably the most, like, anti-technology, in your personal life,
On
right?
our podcast.
Except
Yes.
for except for
Yes.
that I run a podcast and I love
Yeah.
technology, right?
Yeah.
Um, this has truly been an epic struggle in my life because I place such a high value off of being completely unplugged and away from electricity. I think it's essential as a human being that you spend time doing that and letting nature recharge you and all those things. And I read an interesting study that talked about how if you go out into the woods or into a place where there's no electricity or no power, no unnatural light or anything around, your natural circadian rhythms will reset themselves within 48 hours, right? Which means you will sleep when it gets dark and you will wake up when the sun comes up, right? Like that is the natural way that nature interacts with you as a human being
Hmm.
on the
Yeah.
earth. But I don't get up when the sun comes up. I get up when my alarm goes off,
Mm-hmm.
right? The alarm goes off at a certain time because I need to be somewhere by a certain time, whether there's light out or not. And then I go to that thing and I'm there at that time, and then I have to clock out for my specific breaks at a certain time, and then I come back and then I
Yeah.
have to clock out for my lunch before a certain time. Uh, it's it is a very structured routine
Mm-hmm.
um, that becomes autopilot, right? Like that's why you wake up and you're like,
Yeah.
well, while I'm drinking my coffee, I'm in a bad mood, but I'm still heading in that direction, right? It's how I feel about it. I still
Yeah.
need to be at 7:30. Um, so I would say that feels like an unnatural way to live, right? It feels like the natural way wakes you up when you're supposed to get up, right? And then it prepares you to rest when you're supposed to rest, and you would eat during the times in the middle of that time, right?
Hmm.
Naturally, you wouldn't be in imbalance with your food, and
Yeah.
I see where you're going, and I agree. I think that's exactly what he means by the tiger. Like time is the tiger that's forcing you to go somewhere else
Yeah.
yeah,
before you want to or before your body needs to. And your
sure.
desire to reset it or to regain control over that moment of time is how you represent as the tiger in that same scenario.
Mm.
Because you're choosing that,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
You have an
Right.
option. You have an option to not do that.
Right.
Right? You have an so the tiger is it could be your inner self pushing you to a course of action or to a place that you don't necessarily want to go, right?
Right.
But you have to out of a sense of survival or out of a sense of this is
Right.
the way this is
Right.
built or
Right.
whatever, right?
Hmm.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Because I remember going camping last month and talking to both of you guys about it. And like I 100% felt that. Like when I got back from, and it was just 2 days of tent camping at like a family ranch. It wasn't like, a 14-mile hike into the backwoods somewhere, sleeping on the ground with some sticks. Like this was a very comfortable experience, but
Hmm.
I was still asleep like an hour before I normally do, and I couldn't keep my eyes open. I woke
Hmm.
up a little bit earlier than I normally do because there's sunlight in the tent, and like
Yeah.
those first couple nights when I came back home, it felt great. Like
Yeah.
sleeping. So
Yeah.
like I see it, right? Like it makes sense.
Yeah. Interesting. So, in those terms, like you adjusted back to your chosen routine, right?
Hmm.
When you got back, or what like I say chosen because ultimately it's all
Sure.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I chose this job. I chose the schedule.
Right.
Like all
Right. Right.
those things
Right.
are true. Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right way to do it,
Yeah.
right? And so,
Mhm.
and this is really an attack on Jordan for making me go do jujitsu before. But, you know, I understand why certain people do that, and I understand why I get the system and I get, I get the necessity for it sometimes. And
Mhm.
uh, but even something as interesting as like daylight savings time, right? Where you're actually manipulating the time of day for what? The reason they
Right.
initially did that was so that everybody everywhere would have the most access to sunlight in a day, so the
Yeah.
farm could have a full growing day.
Right.
The time on our clocks did not change when the sun comes up and when the sun goes
Yeah.
down. The
Exactly.
farm doesn't know the difference. The plants don't know the difference. Only the farmer knows the difference because he's marking time with a device,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I think that's what sparked that initial question for me is, how do you feel like that's the right way that we're supposed to live if it's not the natural way?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if it's not, what do we do about that? Like, do we owe it to ourselves to try to fix that? I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe this is the first
Maybe
time.
retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Start
that's
start
the
playing the
thing, right?
lotto.
That's
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing is now, because what you just said, I think is a great analogy for the tiger, right?
Hmm.
When you're in the jungle, you don't get to decide when the tiger shows up hungry,
Yeah.
right? Like it just does. And you have no choice at that point. Well, you still have a choice, right? You
Yeah.
can stay and be devoured, or you can run and,
Mhm.
survive, figure your plan out. Um, so that's so I'm fascinated by it again, because there are options, right? There are choices that
Mhm.
we can make that would maybe be better for us, or a more natural choice, or a more honorable. I don't know if maybe honorable isn't the right word, but
Yeah.
um a less unnatural fight against nature.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh
Well, essentially, talk about like waking up in time. Like I have a alarm clock. There's a light based alarm clock
yeah.
that I use.
Okay.
And I remember hearing Matt Frazier, the CrossFit guy, talking about it and like how you wake up kind of
Lumos or
determines your
something.
day. Yeah. It's
Right.
really interesting. Like I wake up about 5 minutes early every morning. I'm like, damn it. 5 minutes of sleep. I'll
Yeah.
lay there quietly and until like the alarm, like the little tone will go off at the time. But I wake up like to light in my room versus
Yeah.
to like a jarring song or a jarring tone. Like and it's kind of it's how you start your day with it is an interesting kind of a perspective.
Yeah. I used to wake up to a Slipknot song, where I would, just like instantly
Yeah.
tense when I got up. And I thought, because I'll sleep through an alarm, right?
Yeah.
I'll
Just
incorporate a beeping into my
throw
dream.
throw
You
Yeah.
know,
wait and bleed on
it was before I forget. So,
Oh
it's
yeah.
just,
Okay. Oh man.
hi,
Yeah.
just like this crazy, Joey Jordison going crazy on his double bass. And
Yep.
but because I thought, like, I've had full on dreams that I've woken up, from I'm on the deck of a starship and it's red alert, and then I wake up and
Yeah.
it's my alarm going off for 20
Yeah.
minutes.
Right, right.
Um, so I think that light based thing is interesting. I think
Yeah.
that's an interesting concept. Um, yeah, just
Isn't that light-based thing, isn't it to take advantage of like that study, Randy, that you were talking about in terms of like getting back to your circadian rhythm? where you're
Yeah.
not like the stimuli that wakes you is the same stimuli that would wake you in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even, like, I'll find if I go on a camping trip like you're talking about, Chris, like a not,
Children,
I'm not in the woods,
novice.
it's
Yeah.
well, like whatever, it's what most
Basic.
of us think of as campus, right? It's a
Yeah.
pre-prepared site. It's a,
Yeah.
you're not too
Fire
far
pit's
from
already there. Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and in those instances, I find that I still have my phone with me.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know,
Yep.
so I'll take pictures of my s'mores that I'm proud of or my fire, that I put on
Right.
Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still getting that blue light invasion out in the
Yeah.
woods and then,
Yeah.
like watch a couple of videos, go to sleep, I still wake up to the sun, so that makes it interesting, if you stay up too late because of the unnatural light, and then the sun will not let you go back to sleep, it's time for you
Yeah.
to wake up. Yeah, that stuff is I don't know, I just wonder as we get further and further down this technology road, where we're already past the point where it's integrated into every part of our life.
Oh yeah. It's
Um,
promoted now.
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, like, you almost feel behind, like you're some Luddite if you're not using the latest tech,
Right.
Yeah.
in your day-to-day. But do you think that's healthy?
I think, but though, the hard thing is though, that human beings have been successful because of adaptation through and use of
Evolution.
technology. Yeah, evolution through use of technology, right? Sticks, rocks, it's all technology. It's how you implement it and how good you are with it. Like my company's done a lot more stuff with AI recently, and I've heard some
Yeah.
conversations about it, and they're like, it's not AI is not going to replace you, but the person who uses AI is going to replace you.
Yep.
Right.
1000%. Jensen Wang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like, and in my industry is all commercial estimation, like construction stuff. And we're still using it a bunch and
Yeah.
understanding it. But I think people like to get afraid of new tech. Like the first caveman's like, spear with a rock. I just use my spear without a rock. Like it's good enough. Like
Stick better than rock.
it's better than rock.
Uh,
But it's,
well, let's talk about that for a second. I think
Mhm.
because I think that's an interesting point. Um, but I think we're also talking about slightly different things,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
right? So, a caveman in this example has to figure out a way to acquire food or he dies. He'll eat plants, right? Until he
Mhm.
figures out that he can throw that sharp stick at an animal and catch it, whatever, and then he can eat that, right? So that changes things a little bit. It changes the diet, it changes life a little bit. Um, I think that what I'm more thinking of is not the things that can secure like the big 3, right? Like
Yeah.
you need food, you need water, you need shelter, right? Those
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the things that help you acquire those. I'm talking about everything else that's really just a convenience.
Yeah.
Right? Like the alarm clock that wakes you up in the morning is a convenience.
Oh, yeah.
It wakes you up so that you're not late, but it makes you not late to the
Yeah.
thing that you agreed to show up at a certain time for. You know what I mean? Like that's just part of the system, right? It's part of that down the road. I am much, much more awake and alive and alert for my whole life at night,
Yeah.
right? Like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I'm like, what movie are we gonna watch? Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Well, it's like that thing that we sent out earlier, right? That Kurt Vonnegut quote about
Yeah.
convenience and how convenience makes you lose the human touch, right?
Yeah, the empathy and the
Yeah.
right. And you get into this state of entitlement. And I think that's where I'm at. I think that's what
Yeah.
it feels like. Because I think we're making time a bigger deal than it should be
Hmm.
so that we can achieve more
Hmm.
than maybe we even should.
Yeah.
Like I wonder how many cavemen had to go see a therapist because they were stressed out about
Right.
time.
But it's also though, and you guys have both seen this, like California and Georgia are drastically different on how people perceive time.
Sure.
Like you'll go to Starbucks and the person in front of you will have a full-on conversation with the barista or the person behind the counter, like a
Sure.
5-minute conversation, and there'll be
Yeah.
a line of people and people just sit there and wait. Like there's
Yeah.
nobody like starting to have a stroke or a seizure, or the person at Kroger will talk to you and say, "Hey, how you doing today? Oh, I'm doing well. How are you? Oh, I'm well too." Like, and there'll be a full-on conversation, and there'll be a line of people, and nobody will say a word. And in California, people will be losing their mind if you did that. It's like head down through the line, out the door.
I absolutely agree with that. Right.
Yeah.
My example from my own life is even crazier than that, because when I went to Paris, we would sit down in a cafe and they will never bring you the check
Yeah.
until you asked for it. Because the point isn't
Interesting.
to get your money and get you
Mm.
out. The point is for you to hang out all day, and it's just a social, right? Like, it's something you do. They want you to be there. The other thing I noticed was we would go eat breakfast at around, 8 or 9 in the morning. And then immediately after breakfast, the entire city would shut down. It'd be a ghost town for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
well,
That
what
sounds
is that?
amazing.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Everybody goes home and takes a nap, right? It's like you have to do the job, right?
Yeah.
But that's not. But there's still a time, reference to it, but it's different, right? It's a different
Yeah.
way of
Mhm.
living. So I think that the problem for me though is not just the severity of it. It's that
The direction.
it's hard being bound by it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can accept the idea that I have a certain amount of time on this earth, but I have a hard time with the idea that someone else gets to decide how I spend that time until I
Yeah.
run out. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Also,
So
too, and also too, I think you might look at time differently if you knew when that date and that time was.
certainly you would, right?
Yeah.
How many people go do crazy bucket list stuff because they get told they have 6 months left to
Right.
live, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, if you and I mean, there's even like a cheesy pop song, right? But the
Nickelback.
chorus, "Live like you're dying,"
Yeah.
today was
Yeah,
your
yeah,
last
yeah.
day. I mean, there are lots of songs about that, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, if today was your last day, would
Yeah.
it change the way that you live? It absolutely would,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And
I would not wake
Yeah.
up to an alarm, and I
Yeah.
would not go to work,
Yeah.
and I would not do all of those things. And so I think that's the point of my question, my challenge to this idea when I
Yeah.
ask, is it healthy? Because instantly when you're faced with that ultimate finish line, the things that you prioritize
Hmm.
are out the window.
Mhm.
Not that I'm saying that it's healthy to just throw everything out the window and not, you know what I mean? Like, you're obviously, that person knows they're on the edge of the cliff.
Mhm.
But if we all technically are, to Jordan's point, we could get smashed by a semi, leaving the house today later before this episode even airs, right? It could
Yeah.
Right.
all be gone. Um, you know, so is there, I guess that's why I'm asking the question, if we agree that we would change it if we knew what the end date was, if we agreed that we would live a different life. But we know there is an end date regardless of whether we know that there actually is or not.
Mhm.
Don't we owe it to ourselves to try to live a life, the natural life that's worthy of that time that we have left, whether we know when it ends or not?
Yeah.
And how do we
Absolutely.
honor that? How,
And
like,
there's an interesting kind of balance though, like with pain avoidance
sure.
with time. Like so many things you want to do, but that might create pain because of it. And you're trying to balance out
Mhm.
decisions you're making and choices, and by how much pain do I want to endure now versus later versus kind of all these things. And so many people live lives of just what's that quote? A quiet desperation, right? Where people just go to work, come home, watch Netflix, go to bed, and it's just an over and over kind of a thing. And it's just assuming you'll have all the time in the world, but
You know?
you
You
don't.
know? Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right. And then you wake up one day and you're like, wow, for the last year, I've done the exact same day every
yeah,
single day.
Right, right, right.
Was that did I really move forward in life, or am I, you know what I mean? Like if we have an average of 85, or, between 85 and 100 years, and that's it. And the amount
Yeah.
of time when you're physically and mentally capable of enjoying that, or, at least experiencing, the life, um, is also questionable and not guaranteed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, there's that really good Joe Rogan quote talked about this. He said, the fear is never reaching your full potential, always falling short, always quitting before you're done, always procrastinating, always not doing the right thing. And then one day you're an old man and you look back with regret and think, God, I could have been great.
Right, right. And there's no
Like,
way for you to fix it.
no.
Um,
And that's
you
and
know,
that's a thing that I've been kind of thinking about a lot recently is like, is this what the next 30 years is gonna look like? And do I
Mhm.
want to do this? And it's a
I
difficult conversation and thought process to go through.
it absolutely is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh, but so essential to do, right? Like, if you don't take that stock, and I think that have where we all are, we're all in that certain time of age where your body starts to communicate that some of
Mhm.
the tab that you've been racking up your whole life is coming due, right? Like, um, you've been charging all these things all these years, and now it's time to pay for some of them, kind of thing. I think of food a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
As we're learning more and more about how food and what we eat is directly tied to the sicknesses that we're having and the cancers that we're having as we get older. Well, if you knew for sure that there's a 95% chance that you're going to get cancer from eating something, and you knew that
Yeah.
today, would you stop eating it? Well,
Yeah.
we're told that there are, like soda, for instance, definitely causing cancer, right? Definitely. That stuff
Yeah.
that Chris is
Coke
drinking
Zero.
out of right now is lined
Yeah.
with plastic. Like it's a metal can lined with plastic full of chemicals and poison, right? Like it's like it could not be a worse thing for you. But we'll drink them and we'll go, well, I still feel okay. You're not paying the check for that right now. You're going to pay for it
Here's
later.
I put a lot of thought into this too. And I think like this is the perspective I would bring to it because the question that you're asking is effectively like if you knew that this was going to kill you, would you do it anyway? I actually think the question is if you know you're going to die, what do you want to do? If you know you're going to die, then does the can of soda really matter? That's up
Mhm.
to the individual. Because if they like it and they know they're going to die anyway, then what difference does it make?
I think that I understand that, right? But we're not talking about the quality of the death, right? So, yeah, we all know we're going to die. And if we break it down into simple terms, like using the word die, then we
Right.
say
Yeah.
the air I breathe is going to kill me, the soda is going to kill me.
Exactly.
Either way,
Right.
I'm going to die, right?
Right.
But dying from getting hit by a car is different than spending the last 6 months or 2 years of your life in a hospital bed having horrible treatments done to you, trying to mitigate the cancer so you get 5 more days with your family. That's a different kind of life, and if soda causes that,
Right.
so, you know what I'm saying? Now
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
talking not just the quality itself, but we're talking about how it ends,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
How that fire consumes you.
Hmm.
Um, you
The
know,
last little bit.
the last little bit, right?
Mhm.
You don't get to decide when that is. So I could take a stray bullet, or I could take a
Hmm.
car crash, or I could, whatever. There
I
could be a
think
lot of
I
freak
think
things
that
that
the only counterpoint I can offer in this scenario is that because you could take a stray bullet or because you could get hit by a car and not even make it to the point where the last 6 months of your life are torturous going through these treatments, and you like this thing,
Mhm.
is it really that bad? Because that's only one outcome within the spectrum of outcomes that you're managing against. And I
sure.
think for me, it's like I would rather manage the outcomes against each other rather than the path like individually leading to each one of those outcomes, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah.
Do you think though that there's one person in a bed having those horrible treatments that goes, "Damn it, all that soda was worth it." You know, you know what I
I
mean?
mean,
Because like,
yeah.
so I hear what you're saying, and I have actually have a personal example of this. So when Michelle's grandfather was getting to the end stages of his Alzheimer's, he all he wanted to do was sit on the porch and smoke cigarettes.
Mhm.
And you talk about kid in a candy store. It was like you were handing him ambrosia of the gods every time you
Yeah.
gave him a cigarette. Like his face lit up, he
Yeah.
smiled, he leaned in for you to light it. He was the act of
Boy.
smoking and the feeling and was all he wanted to do. And his wife was constantly, "I don't want him smoking. I don't want him smoking." And we always used to say, "It doesn't matter what you want. He's dying."
Yeah.
Right? Like him
Mhm.
not smoking at this point
Yeah. It means nothing.
might advance his death a little bit, but it's not ending his life early, right?
Hmm.
Maybe all the cigarettes he smoked when he was 20 contributed to his Alzheimer's at this point, like maybe that is the case. Maybe if he knew that there was a direct link, he might not have smoked thinking I'm going to lose the last 20 years of my life not knowing
Right.
who I am. You know what I mean? I'm sure he loved it. I'm sure he loved cigarettes. That doesn't mean that it was good for him. It doesn't, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't have had them because I fought for him to have them.
Right. Right. Right.
I'm just saying when the river starts flowing and you're born, there's a path it's going to take, right? You don't know what it is. There's twists and turns in it. You don't know where it's going to come out. You don't know when it's going to finally run into the ocean and it's over, right? It's no longer a river.
Hmm.
When you wander into the jungle, you don't know what it's like to fight a tiger or to run from one or to even see one, right?
Mhm.
And eventually you don't know what it's like to become one. You know, when you get to that fire point, you had no idea what it felt like to burn,
Hmm.
and now you do. So I'm just in this is obviously a very philosophical question, right? And it's intensely personal too, you know. Because I think of like George Burns, which may date me a little bit, but that guy smoked a cigar every day of his 110-year life.
Right.
Like he enjoyed it. It did not kill him, right? Why is someone set aside for that and someone else isn't? But uh so I agree with your point on that, right?
Yeah.
I think that everybody absolutely should be free to make the decisions that they want to make for themselves. I also think it's incredibly it speaks to the absolute crucial importance of being informed about the choices you make. You know,
Hmm.
uh like I didn't know until this year that they lined aluminum cans with plastic.
With epoxy.
Right? I didn't know that. But I know that when I go to jujitsu, there's a good probability that I'm limping home, right? Like,
Right. Right.
there's a chance that someone's going to choke me unconscious. There is an opportunity, maybe, infinite opportunities for me to end up breaking something or damaging part of my body, or being
Hmm.
like, I know that, and I choose it anyway, right? Because it's because I get the enjoyment and the benefits out of it, right? Like, but I didn't know that the soda I was drinking had plastic in it, right? Until
Yeah.
Mhm.
until this year. So I think I guess what I'm saying is I'm trying to choose the natural way of
Yeah.
life as much as I am able to, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
trying to steer that way. Um, because I'm aware of these things and because I'm thinking about them and because I'm getting older and because, they're
Mhm.
becoming more real, and
Hmm.
that just statistically, if I only have a certain number of years, then every year I move forward, I'm getting closer to the end of that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
You're
just a
drawing from the bank.
yeah, it's just natural. Uh, and so I wonder for myself, am I honoring the reason that I'm here at all? You know, am I honoring it the most I can? Am I being a responsible steward of the time? And I know that it, philosophically, it depends on what you think about, you
Sure.
know, time and your soul, or if you have one, or if you believe in God or not. I understand all that.
Yeah.
Um, but I obviously believe that we are created, and from a created standpoint, I think further than that, I believe that there's a purpose for that creation. And if anytime I do something intentionally, I hope that the thing I did intentionally is going to be honored as much as possible. Right? Like, no matter the work I put in jujitsu, I obviously want to gain the most out of that time
Yeah.
that I
Right.
spend on the mat.
Right.
Um, do you think, like, how do you think that applies to every day? Like, do you think that in that sense, is that autopilot a good or bad thing, or a dangerous thing? Does that have any impact on your thoughts about whether we should be able to drink that soda or not?
I don't know, I think life really boils down to, like, you have this time and you have obligations, right? And you have like decisions you make and then repercussions to those decisions and choices you make from there, right? And it's just like, what is it, that Marcus Aurelius quote, like, the whole universe has changed and life is what you make it. And so it's like, yeah, it's just there's so much going into it, and people for thousands of years have kind of toyed with the idea of time and how you utilize it and how
Hmm.
you optimize it and
Right.
what you do with it when you get it. And
And
And even fate versus free will, right? Like,
yeah.
right.
because if you think of that river as having a path,
Hmm.
then you don't really decide where the twists and turns are even, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's really just you're floating down towards your fate. Um, and obviously I'm not a big subscriber to that.
Yeah.
I think that you have a choice, and I think
Yeah.
you can I
Yeah.
think you can affect that. But maybe I'm wrong, like, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Um, because I'm not sure. know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, man, what a interesting
Hmm.
concept. So I know we went a lot of places with that. Um, has your thinking about it expanded? Has it changed in any way? Just even thinking about the concepts, and the examples that we've used. Do you feel has anything else struck you? Um, I don't know. I think it feels like there's something left on the table, and I don't wanna miss it.
Hmm.
I think like for me, it comes down to magnitude of impact. Like if you boil the quote down, what it effectively says is time is a thing that happens to you just as much as you happen to time, right?
Yeah,
Okay, great. So what is the magnitude of impact that you can make knowing those two constraints, right? Like
Hmm.
we get all everybody gets the same 24 hours in a day. Everybody gets it.
yep,
The choices that you make, or like going back to the original thought I had was like how you carry the weight matters.
Hmm.
And I think for me, it's like the metaphor plays itself out. Like at the beginning, I was like, the poetry of this is bugging me because he's just trying to be obtuse or sound cool. But now I'm like, maybe he
Yeah.
didn't use enough metaphors because, like time
yeah,
can represent itself in numerous ways. So yeah, I mean, for me, it comes down to magnitude of impact. Like you get the same 24 hours as everybody else. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And the choices that you make actively or the choices that you make passively
Hmm.
all matter.
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so I guess then the recommendation, if there is one, would be to at least attempt to be aware of it, and
Mhm.
aware of what the magnitude is, I guess, so that you can be as responsible as possible with it.
Hmm.
Because what you have to carry is going to be different than what I have to carry, right? And even how we interpret what we have to carry changes our concept of time and our responsibilities to each other and to ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, I think that calibration should be a natural state for most of us, just constantly adjusting to say, does this autopilot that I've been on for the last 20 years still serve?
Mhm.
Is it maybe
Do what
time
it
for me?
needs to do.
Yeah, yeah. Is it time for me to stop drinking soda now? Or, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
maybe not. But
Yeah.
whatever you arrive is your journey, right?
Mhm.
It's your journey. Um, but in terms of honoring, for me, I guess, I just want to make sure that I honor the time that I'm here, especially now that I'm more aware of
Yeah,
the time I'm here.
yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what I took away from the quote. I think, just a good reminder.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was a heavy one. That was a crazy road to go down, but,
Yeah.
super interesting. As always, I'm always just so grateful for your guys' perspectives because it just the concepts and the ideas that would never even occur to me that just so naturally flow out of both of you.
Mhm.
Um, just so fascinating, and it always makes me better. It just or gives me a more complete idea, of
Yeah, yeah.
how little I know. I guess it's ultimately is what that comes down to. But for all of you out there, I hope that you're enjoying these conversations. I hope you enjoyed that one. What do you think about it? What do you think about time? Or is it something that is even a factor for you? And how does it affect your choices? How does it affect
Yeah.
the path that you take? What do you think about that? We'd love to hear your thoughts
Well,
and
and then I got
cool.
one more quote for you, Randy.
Oh shoot, good. Jordan's
Yeah.
not done. What do we
Yeah.
got?
So it's a quote by Confucius, and we all know it, right? Every man has two lives, and the second one starts when you realize you only have one.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
haven't heard that one.
Really?
Woo!
Oh, that's a
No,
really
that's
good one.
new to me.
Yeah.
That is really
All right,
good.
one more time.
Yeah.
Give it to us one more time. We weren't
All
ready.
right. Every man has two lives, and the second one starts when he realizes that he only has one.
Ugh. How about tying a bow on that thing?
Yeah,
Dude,
Yeah,
that was
seriously.
that
what
was hard.
So go chew on that, everybody. And until next week, thank you so much for listening to the Sweeter After Difficulty podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow.
Mhm.
Check us out on Spotify, Rumble, TikTok, X, everywhere you find all that stuff. Instagram. You can find us all there. All the links are in the descriptions and everything. But again, as always, gratitude, respect. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, boys.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.